So after so many months of this saga going on, it has finally happened. Sebastian Vettel, the four-time world champion, has finally been announced to be going to Aston Martin for 2021. Obviously, the team is known as Racing Point right now. There was a lot of hubbub about Sergio Perez staying on. You know, he was adamant he had a long-term future with the team. There was a contract in place because he signed a multi-year deal, I think it was 2 years ago, for 3+ years or whatever it was. Otmar, the team principal at Racing Point, was pretty much adamant that they weren't changing their lineup. He literally said it a week ago when someone asked, will you confirm your drivers soon? He said, we already did that 2 years ago. There's nothing more to confirm. So is Vettel out? He was never inside. What does that mean for next year? Let's end the interview with those last two questions. Otmar in the mud, complete 180 here, and they have announced Sebastian Vettel will be an Aston Martin driver for 2021. I, for one, am very happy for Sebastian Vettel. It's very sad for Sergio Perez. Let's not forget, Sergio Perez pretty much saved this team back in, I think it was 2017, wasn't it, when they were going to go bankrupt, and eventually he did the certain legal ramifications to actually make them go into administration to kind of keep the company afloat and get new owners, and so they wouldn't be here really without Perez making that difficult decision. So it is very, very sad to see him go. It's a shame. Hopefully he does land a seat. I think he's good enough to land a seat in Formula 1 if he wants, but obviously it depends on what seat he gets, because I'm sure Perez will want a seat that is actually somewhat competitive in some sort of way. But let's talk about Vettel to Aston Martin. That's the main point of this video and why I think it's a great thing for him, and it's also a good thing for Aston Martin as well. You've got to remember, Aston Martin coming into Formula 1 as a new brand, at least. It may not be a new team, because it is literally the same Silverstone team that is currently Racing Point, that used to be Force India. It's that same team, but the branding will change. They'll have some Aston Martin backing, I'm sure, and there'll be a lot more affiliation. So it is a new brand for them. So for them to sign a four-time world champion, that's a big deal. That's a big statement for PR, marketing. Having Vettel align with the Aston Martin brand is going to be a very cool synergy. I mean, they've already started off showing some really cool pictures of Advantage, I think it was, with a kind of Seb 5 number plate on it, so that's really cool as well. Kind of getting the hype in early, and I mean, Sebastian looks happy. If you've seen the photo they released, he looks absolutely beaming, and I'm going to say as well, it's hilarious to me that that him and the team have announced this going into Ferrari's 1000th Grand Prix. Now, to my knowledge, Sebastian Vettel still, to this day, does not have an agent. He does his own negotiations when he gets into those contract talks with teams. So, in a way, obviously, maybe the team themselves, Racing Point determined more when they would announce it, because they had to kind of probably go through the nitty-gritty of getting Perez to, basically tell him that, they don't want him anymore for next year. But the synergy there of Vettel determining when he puts pen to paper himself, there's no agent involved, and the fact it's lined up with the 1000th Grand Prix of his current team that's kicking him out is just hilarious. He's finessing Ferrari here. All the talk is going to be about Sebastian Vettel to Aston Martin, and no one is going to care about Ferrari and their 1000th Grand Prix. In a way, though, that might be a good thing, Actually, Ferrari might be quite happy, because it gives Sebastian something to talk about rather than how bad their own car is right now, going to such a historical race where they've got a brand new livery to commemorate their 1000th Grand Prix. There was a video F1 put out about Ferrari's history and the rise of Ferrari as a brand in Formula 1. You have all that amazing success in history, and then you cut to the unfortunate, timing that they've come to such a great milestone, and the car's just not where they want it to be. Of course, obviously, Ferrari will bounce back. They always bounce back, but it's just a shame of that timing. But for Seb, individually, this is great. He can just talk about his move to Aston Martin, and I think it's going to reinvigorate him. That's why I think it's a great move for Sebastian Vettel. I think he needs to get out of that environment of Ferrari. It's become quite clear, it's become quite toxic and just a little bit, just on edge, and the synergy's not there anymore between him and his engineer, let alone him and Matteo Binotto or the engineers or whatnot, I don't know, but you can just tell every time they're radio back and forth in the race, the way they just talk to each other, there's just no love there anymore. Like Ferrari put out a tweet this morning when it got announced saying it's good to know that you'll be here in the paddock next year, and it just sounds so fake and so just, it's the basic PR thing they have have to do to try and save some face and be like, oh yeah, no, cool, we kicked you out, but it's cool to see you're going to be in the grid. But there's definitely some love lost between these two, which is a shame because they started off with such a great bond, obviously, when Vettel came to Ferrari. You know, he almost became Italian, basically, the German. So it's a shame that that relationship's kind of gone away. But for that very reason, it's a great thing for Seb individually to be going to a new brand like this, a new outfit completely in terms of Aston Martin, but also it's the first time he's driven a Mercedes engine, I think. So that's also been quite interesting. We've never seen Seb at the hands of a Merc engine, so maybe he'll get a taste of finally the thing he's been chasing all these times, because even in the V8 days, the Renault engine wasn't the best engine on the grid, and the Ferrari engine, apart from last year, usually hasn't been the best engine on the grid. So I think Vettel's going to hopefully like that kind of new environment, but also that environment of, we know probably Stroll most likely is going to be in the other car, so Vettel is going to be the de facto team leader, even though Stroll obviously is kind of a staple, and, you know, yes, his dad owns the team. Vettel's the four-time world champion. He's the senior one, so again, the status quo is back in his favour. You know, when Leclerc came into Ferrari, that, you know, was toppled a little bit, and clearly now they favour Leclerc. He's the long-term project, as they would, really, because, you know, he's the long-term one. He's younger, but that dynamic switch, I think, definitely just switched a little bit for Vettel, kind of ruffled his feathers a little bit. He needs to be kind of the number one, or at least equal, and just some favouritism towards his side of the garage to really excel and build a team around him in a way. And I know Stroll's going to try his hardest, and because of Stroll's connection to his dad owning the entire thing, there's obviously, I think, in my mind, going to be some, you know, assurance that he's still not left out in the cold. But Seb will be coming in as the most senior man, the coveted man. They've said it in the press release, obviously, having someone like him. Yes, let's admit, in the last 2 years, Sergio Perez has performed probably better than Sebastian Vettel. That is not a controversial statement, but Vettel has the pedigree there, and I believe, and yeah, you can probably not agree with me, and other people that will agree with me, but I believe Vettel still has some of that magic left in him, and I think we saw that a lot in 2018 before his crash at Germany, and since then I think that tweaked a little bit in his mind, but then it just didn't get better, because you go to the next season and you want to reset nicely, but then the reset was he has this junior hotshot coming in alongside him that they really like. So I just don't think it was ever set up for him to kind of get back into the swing of things, you know? So I think with this change of environment, I think we really could hopefully see, maybe not the same Seb we saw in Red Bull. I don't think we'll ever see that. That was a different universe Seb. You know, if we had the chance of having that Seb versus this current Hamilton, oi, 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 would we have a mega title battle every year? But unfortunately, we won't. Vettel's on obviously the last end of his career. This will be his last stint in Formula One, I suspect. But maybe he can get close, just a little bit. And hopefully, if Racing Point becoming Aston Martin next year can bring some upgrades for next season, but more importantly into 2022, maybe we could see Seb pioneering that team to race victories. You never know. Obviously, it's a massive reset. His contract says it's for 2021 and beyond. So I would hope, it sounds like probably I would say maybe 2 years plus one. I think that's a lot of the teams are doing that lately, where they have a 2-year or 3-year contract, and then there's a plus one option. So maybe Seb is like 2 years plus one. So it's, you know, 1 year, obviously next year, 1 year in the new regulations, and then they see where they are. And if, you know, he performs in their car, then maybe they want to continue. If he thinks the car's good, he continues, or if he doesn't, if they're still kind of a midfield team or a kind of, you know, middle-ish sort of, you know, bridging the gap, but they're not fully right there where Seb might want to be, maybe he calls it quits and just retires after 2022. So I suspect that's maybe what that contract's like, but it's only speculation. But yeah, I think it's a great move for Sebastian Vettel. As I said, let's go back to Sergio Perez now. It is a shame for him. Hopefully he lands a C. You know, what's available? Haas, Alfa Romeo, potentially. Haas is a good one for them. I think they need some leadership. Grosjean and Magnussen just seem to be on the same level of just kind of roaming about, trying to do the best job, but they've got no real kind of, I don't know, game plan, it seems like, for the long term, you know, going forward. So maybe Sergio Perez is a good shout for them. Maybe even Alfa Romeo. If Kimi Räikkönen retires, Alfa Romeo tend to have one driver they want and one driver Ferrari wants. So if Kimi retires, that's the driver they wanted to sign, obviously. You know, Giovinazzi is the junior Ferrari driver in this case. So maybe Alfa Romeo might want Sergio Perez's services. Or, as it's been floated a few times before when we've been talking over these last months, Perez could go over to America and do really well in something like IndyCar. Obviously, he's Mexican, so there's going to be a lot of Mexican fans that could potentially travel to those IndyCar races when obviously, you know, COVID passes and everything's a bit more back to normal and fans can attend races. Perez could be big time in IndyCar, so that could be a move for him. Obviously, he wants a competitive drive. He says he has no plan B, so that tells me basically, obviously, one, it's really harsh. He didn't see this coming, which is really, really harsh. But two, you know, then he's going to look out for, okay, is an actually a competitive drive that I want to do? If not, he'll just dip out and do something else. And like I said, hopefully he just goes to America. I think he could do quite well there. But yeah, after so many months since Ferrari announced they were going to drop Vettel and sign Sainz, you know, I almost was tired of it. I was like, if they don't sign Vettel at this point, I'm just going to be severely underwhelmed. They could sign a banging driver, but if it's not Vettel, I'll just be tired that we wasted so much time talking about him to Aston Martin. But it's finally happened. I'm looking forward to seeing Seb in different colours again and seeing him reinvigorated. It happened from Red Bull to Ferrari, remember, because when Ricciardo came in, it's the same thing. It's kind of a pattern, and Vettel can't hide away from it. There's a pattern of when a young shot that is pretty quick comes in and destabilises the team a little bit and pushes it towards them, Vettel does get a little bit unsettled. So now, resettling like he did with Ferrari may be the best option for him, and I for one hope we can see him back to his best. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Obviously, I know some of you may be writing Vettel off completely and just saying he should retire. If you do, let me know, you know, and the other side, if you're with me, of, you know, thinking this is a good move. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of Sergio Perez fans out there as well that might be quite angry or kind of sad at this news. Where do you think he should go? Where do you want him to go? And where do you think he'll actually end up in reality? That's been this short, snappy video and reaction to the news that Aston Martin in 2021 will be signing Sebastian Vettel. If you guys did enjoy the video, then hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I've been Aaron. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.